Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for attending this panel. I sincerely hope it will be of interest to you, one way or the other. And thanks to all my fellow panelists for making it here, and great to meet you in person. And we chatted a bit yesterday. What is it to discuss today in 30 plus minutes when the topic is AI, because obviously AI is everywhere. It's being discussed from every angle by everyone. But let's dive into it and see how it goes. So maybe I would ask with a more warm-up question to each of you, and I would plea for the one-sentence answer if possible. Do you personally and your organization use AI at work? Ska, please.
Yeah, sure. We definitely have different kind of tools, throughout, the kind of like the VC value chain as well. That especially for deal sourcing, and then for generating thematic market research, and then also for kind of continuous portfolio engagements, and also. Yeah, so I think those are the three main areas that we use AI toolings for. And of course, some of our portfolio companies or founders that we talk to use AI note taker quite often in the meetings that we have. Yeah.
Great, right. So Jakub, how is it with you and your organization?
Very similar. So we have our own sourcing tech stack based on AI quite heavily. Fun fact, ChatGPT can recognize a CEE founder in like 99.9% of cases, but based on the name. Then in the DD, so the research, deep research with ChatGPT, Manus, note-taking, quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Great. Peter?
Yes, of course. And I think it's going to be similar to asking, do you use a spreadsheet at some point? So we've been using actually since 5 years out of a hobby. Back then it was called machine learning, to kind of automate certain tasks, but obviously you have a lot of more advanced tools that are more ready to use and easier to use also for non-technical people, and that I think creates a lot of opportunity at the moment. Yeah.
Thanks. I know it was a sort of a offensive question from this point of view. Yeah, everyone is using it, but I was just interested to actually see or learn how exactly are you using by now, because obviously it will probably change in the future. So Baturay, your turn.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to add because I think like all of us are using it for similar use cases. One thing I think changed for us in the last 2 years, like similar to Peter, we were also building our own tooling for the last 5-6 years, but with the recent technologies in scraping and the LLMs, it just made the the sourcing tooling significantly more scalable. So yeah.
Great. So I, of course, didn't have any doubts that you are actually, and your organizations are using it, but obviously now the question comes, if you put your VC shoes on and you look at either potential future investments or targets, and at the same time at your portfolio, to what extent or how exactly does AI matter when you actually evaluate their chances, whether those whom are you potentially thinking of investing in, and equally those whom do you have in your portfolios? Like what matters the most from the AI perspective with these companies? So maybe let's turn it around. So Baturay again.
Like first of all, I think the fundamentals we looked at didn't really change that much before AI or post AI. We still care a lot about the team quality. We still care about the market potential. But of course, like when you're looking at an AI or AI-enabled company nowadays, certain dynamics have significantly changed. The pace of development is significantly higher. The companies are growing much, much faster. So that's why we are focusing more on identifying companies who can build the product depth that can turn into a ideally defensible and valuable business in the next, like, let's say, a couple of years, so that we can sustain that value. That's one angle I can maybe contribute to the discussion.
I see two distinctions, I would say. The one is using AI in your core product which makes it more intelligent, more, I don't know, advanced in a certain extent to serve your customer focus. And there are new companies doing that, also called AI native sometimes, yeah. Which I think not everybody needs to do it. On the other hand, I would say AI to optimize processes or certain functions like finance, legal work, etc. I think that will touch everybody, and that we are just seeing about how that dispenses. And with voice we see it with note takers, etc. We're going to see a lot of more of these kind of increase of efficiency in processes, in automation that can be done. And when I look at an investment perspective, for me the big question is always where is the defensibility of your kind of product and positioning coming from, especially also in kind of your freedom to operate, because for me that's just another piece in the tech stack where you have certain providers like with cloud services. So for me it's always how can you stay independent and add enough value for your customers that you kind of can leverage it without becoming dependent and becoming, I don't know, competed away in the end. And I think there's a lot of noise going on because there's very, I would say, clever, innovative founders that can use that advantage, being first adopters now, but there will be a race, a kind of others following, which will even the play field a lot more. And then I think certain things we see, some outliers might go away, others might catch up. So that's, in my opinion, we're going to see over the next couple of years.
Jakub.
So I won't repeat the points that you had here because I completely agree with them. So fundamentals, being the founder, and the founder being directionally correct for us in pre-seed haven't changed much, but higher requirements on speed and distribution, especially if there's no fundamental research, if it's an application layer of AI, that's for sure a bigger question we are asking now. What the moats are in this era? That's a good question, and again we are quizzing it because it's changed a bit. What we are seeing, though, that maybe wasn't the case before, is that has come with AI, is experimenting with different and new business models that are now being tested. And no one actually knows if they work, but it's quite exciting to see that people are trying. So, roll-ups, and buying legacy businesses that are service heavy, and then running them much more efficiently, like accounting or legal, or a lot of emphasis of forward deployed engineers. So, and the service and implementation layer, like, is it just a fad because you don't have a product market fit, or is it a new model we don't know yet? Or a ton of models now emerging in robotics. So that's exciting to explore, and it's great to know that we don't have the answers yet, and we will see how it turns out.
Sure. Ska, I will let you add your bit if you have.
Yeah, I think just quickly, now it has become like an embed layer, so we're more looking at the AI fluency, and architect so the founder doesn't necessarily have to be the best, technical AI engineer, also doesn't have to build a novel model. It's also kind of like we wouldn't have enough capital to fund a novel model, but just someone who has the right architect mindset to know where to instruct and where to instill AI, what kind of AI toolings to use, and what kind of guardrail layer to build.
Mm-hmm. From that perspective, actually, do you go deep into like analyzing what they actually are using? Do you assess whether, from your point of view, it is the right model, right software? Do you use some external help for that? Do you have some specific like AI testing or AI penetration, reviews or anything like that, similar to sort of like a due diligence or anything like that? Or do you just take whatever they tell you, the founders, at a face value and rely on them to know their business and to know what particularly or how to apply it actually in practice? It's the question for everyone. I'm just, again, maybe Ska, if you may say a few words around those.
Yeah, I think it depends whether it's an AI native startup. Again, on infrastructure layer, obviously, if it's the core product, then it needs more kind of technical diligence for like the model benchmarking, performance benchmarking, and the likes. But if it's on the application layer, then I think what's more important is less about the model they use, because models nowadays are commoditized. It's more about do they have the proprietary data, the feedback loop, and how do they do the workflow embed around the AI model that they are applying on top.
Yeah, so we invest very early, right? We invest at a point when there's not much apart from the founders in like the early pre-seed stages. And at that time, quizzing the tech stack would seem a bit excessive in most cases. So we usually don't. Obviously, it's a nice discussion point, but usually, if we believe the founders are great, they should know better than us.
Peter, any different view or same view?
No, I mean, I share that view. It really depends if the AI is at the core of your product, where you kind of need some innovation and some defensibility, or if you're a user of AI in your product. And most companies, I would say, are using it somewhere in the product. And here it's like in any software tech stack. It's like you look at how dependent is it interchangeable, is it scaling enough, what is the cost side on the gross margin, also over time in the dependence. And then what I think is new is we're not talking about deterministic outcomes. So it's clearly to know that there might be unexpected outcomes. It's not like a formula I put in and I can unit test. It's much, much harder to unit to security test products that have LLMs or other kind of machine learning statistical models in them. So that's just to be aware of. So it's super important to also kind of test at scale, or at least to envision what that means under certain circumstances. And that's actually a very interesting field currently involving how can you deal with it. And there's a lot of different approaches to that, as has been in similar, I would say, algorithmic or component innovations in the past.
Baturay.
Maybe to add, like, I personally like to discuss these like technical details with the founders, especially there's a CTO founder. We don't necessarily make it a very big part of our due diligence process, but even if like we can be even fine if it's a pre-seed company, they have built a product maybe with vibe coding tools, but I really like to discuss if they know about the architecture now and how it should evolve as they scale the product and the business. And it matters, of course, significantly more if they're, building a deeper technology, maybe like something like in computer vision or voice AI. If it's like a more specialized product, we usually bring in some experts from our network, because it's not like assessing what kind of LLMs are using, but more, domain specific.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sure.
Can I just react, because I think Peter had a great point. So two questions that I think are important to ask about. So first, that you mentioned reliability, whether the founders understand that the reliability in their specific use case, either it needs to be 100%, and then they need to have a good answer how they reach that, right? Whether they implement deterministic guardrails, whether they, which just cuts the efficiency though, or whether they can do with 95-6% reliability, and they communicate it explicitly to the customer, but they need to know that this will be accepted and that's fine. And in some use cases it's fine, but in others it's not, right? And the second point, there needs to be a good answer to, okay, if inference costs are high today, which is usually the case, like the margins are not great for many application layer companies, why do we believe they will get lower? I mean, it's a tough question. Even Lovable has negative margins today, right? So not many have the answer, but we need to see that there's at least a consideration for it, and they think about that we're building the infrastructure in a way that can be optimized later, because this could become a problem.
Well, I take from what you were saying that actually it is mainly about two things. One is, of course, AI-powered or somehow AI-backed product these days, but also equally AI literacy in a way. If I might put it like that. So basically, the ability of the people in the organization to actually use the AI the way it would help them in their business. From this perspective, and actually, maybe I don't know, some of you may have been listening to the morning sessions, but at one of those sessions, I've heard a statement, or actually it was even presented as a statistics, that basically these days half of the VC funding goes into AI sort of backed or related companies or startups. So from this perspective, because when you talk about AI literacy, we naturally come to the question, okay, so everyone probably is using horizontal AI, general, type of AI that's going to help you with whatever things. But of course, what is more important for the, especially the companies or essentially anyone, is the implementation of the vertical AI that would be tailored to the organization, tailored to the products, and actually, so from your perspective, is it like can you say that horizontal is less important these days than vertical, or do you think there needs to be some sort of a combination when you are assessing whether it is used and applied correctly in the company, in the startup, or what's your view on that? Anyone pick?
Maybe because I see two trends which are really fascinating. The one is there have rarely been new technologies so widely distributed to end consumers. When you look at OpenAI data, that's interesting because if you look at, I don't know, mobile phones, etc., that was kind of much more only accessible to a very elite. On the other hand, that doesn't mean, in my opinion, that you have literacy in using these tools. Just that you used OpenAI doesn't make you necessarily faster, better at something. It can even have disadvantages. Yeah? So we are learning with that, and I'm seeing that with my kids that are 10 years old, how they start using it for various cases. Some, I would say, questionable in doing homework or whatever, some creative in coming up with new ideas on I don't know, market a product or whatever, which oneself would never have thought of it. And then on the other hand, these vertical layers, seeing adoption of certain solution in enterprises, which is, I think, a completely different beast, because there's a lot of either over-expectation about what this can do, and on the other side, fear of my job is going to be replaced. Yeah? And you see that in the legal work very dominantly, I would say. We see it also in the investor work. I mean, Mark Andreessen, I think that is the only job is not replaced as a venture capitalist. I highly disagree with that. I think a lot of our work can be displaced or automated. But there's also certain aspects which are never be replaced because they're about relationships, about care or whatever. I mean, there are certain things where I hope at least humans will still play a role and just be augmented by, I would say, certain very powerful tooling.
Yeah, so I will just narrow it down a bit, the question, and I will focus on enterprises and software and AI software for enterprise, mostly automation, because it's about automating work, most of it. We're seeing two interesting angles of startups getting funded in actually both directions. One group building kind of a horizontal platforms for enterprises where agents are supposed to be, synergical across departments and sectors, and automate workflows and gain from those synergies across these departments and leverage them. That's one approach to this, but it's usually very difficult to actually implement such a platform, to actually build the means necessary for to actually own all these use cases. But the point is that it should be synergical sooner or later. The opposite approach is the go fully vertical, optimize for a given use case, make sure that within that specific use case, the solution is almost fully reliable, it's optimized for the given workflow, but it will be incompatible with other agents in other departments or difficult to integrate, right? So you will need different solutions. And then these two groups of people are kind of going against each other. Some see the vertical solution as the only way to go because the horizontal platform is just too difficult to build. Others are claiming the horizontal is the only way to go and you will have a fully AI-driven organization. Both are getting funded, both are getting slowly implemented, although the horizontal ones are usually starting from a niche as well. It's almost impossible to build it from day one. It's going to be an interesting kind of battle between the approaches. I'm curious how it's going to turn out.
Well, if I may jump in, I've been asked myself, of course, as I asked you initially, whether we are using it and how, and I actually was explaining on a couple of examples that it's the one which we are using, which is vertical one, actually designed for our business, but it still cannot replace, connecting the dots, like connecting experience, connecting different bases of information and applying them on a use case. So basically, but where it can already help a lot is to some extent research, or mainly kind of working with data quicker, sorting out, putting together some basic information / data stuff in order to help to deliver the product, which in our case is the advice, usually in a written form, much quicker. From what you're saying, I guess it's like maybe we are heading towards some sort of a, as you explained, like sort of a combination, in different segments of the business, there will be different use for different, not necessarily different AI models, but different some horizontal, some vertical, some really deep into the product, and some just making people work much more efficiently. Is that generally the feeling at the moment, or?
I definitely am enthusiastic about eventually ending up with some multi-agent systems, how running big segments of what the company is doing. How we get there, like currently for the horizontal platforms, I think it's a really tough play, and the guardrails they will need to actually get implemented are insanely difficult, and they don't exist today. So that's why enterprise adoption of AI is so low even today. Like they use it for some specific tasks, they use it bottom up, employees just using ChatGPT for different stuff, but like proper enterprise adaptation is very low. Legal is different because legal is a pretty specific use case. But so for now, I'm more bullish on some of the horizontal solutions because I think they have a clear use case for the vertical solutions because they have a clear use case. The horizontal needs an army of deployment, engineers who do it customly for you. In the future, though, like this, I can imagine some segments where you have one big solution operating in that sector. It's just going to be very difficult to build, but I can imagine that happening.
A related question for everyone, actually, in this context: where do you see or do you think the VC capital or generally the funding of the early stage companies will go, given the AI presence, omnipresence sort of in the business? Because we have also seen in some earlier presentations some statistics around like that the capital didn't disappear, it just tends to be more consolidated, and actually it's probably a lesser number of investments but bigger tickets. So is it something which you see already in your practice, or how do you see it?
Maybe I can answer this. I think it's natural that we are still in the early stages of this like AI transformation, and it's natural that most of the money invested goes into the horizontal and infrastructure players. And as the requirement of capital increases, obviously the number of companies operating in that space declines. So I think it's a very natural phenomenon we're seeing there. And unfortunately, I think like some of these big horizontal bets may not survive or deliver the expectations of the investors. But then, like they are so essential in the stack that ultimately we will have a few horizontal winners, like foundation model players, infrastructure players, like the picks and shovels. But on top of that, I believe vertical AI will win because, like, ultimately it's all about understanding what the customers, be it enterprises or small businesses, what they need, what their workflows are, what are the improvement areas, what are the automation areas, and simply using all of the picks and shovels built by these horizontal players. Ultimately, these vertical AI players would win. Of course, like you can build horizontal players for enterprise use cases, but I think considering the capability of the technology we have now, or maybe in the short term, I think like this is probably what you were also mentioning, Jakub. Like I think like vertical players have a much easier job in convincing customers to simply go with their solutions because the value proposition is much simpler to demonstrate.
Peter, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, no, I think you're totally right. We're going to see both. So there will be certain things where these, I would say, more generalized models or infrastructure players like we see in data centers, etc., will take place. And then it's about, I would say, embedding in a process and having the right data and context that makes all the difference. And basically, it's the old problem about generalization or specialization. So you can either know nothing about everything or everything about nothing, but it's going to be on one of these extremes. And so there is a place, I think, for both in the end. But as said, the boundaries are so moving so fast, like how you train models, how efficient these training and the distillation in the models. So even the foundation models things, you can see players like from China catching up quickly and building on and work that has previously done. So even there, not everything is set in stone. On the other hand, it is because you need certain infrastructure still, and these players are heavily investing into the infrastructure, the compute, the network, the storage. That will be needed in any way, and who has more of that has actually more resources. So I think that's the real play going on at the moment. Yeah,
well, in that context, actually, because traditionally, When talking about startups and early stage companies, there has been a lot of discussion historically about moats or about competitive advantage, and you know how one business can actually sort of defend or be ahead of the others because of having something that the others don't. What I see recently, and even from the comments from earlier panels, it seems that AI is actually shallowing those modes. It's actually somehow brushing up the competitive advantages because of the simply of the speed or the ability to actually do things quicker or solve some tasks quicker. So where do you see this going? Like, will the real winner, as you are suggesting, winners will be those who will those who have the infrastructure and the computing capacities, the energy sources, etc., be the ultimate winners, having these modes actually around them, comparing to the others who have the great ideas but will not be able to implement them so quickly because simply they will hit the wall with the like hardware or infrastructure hurdle.
Just a quick view of mine. I think both.
Yeah.
You need the infrastructure, and it's similar to the internet. You have the Ciscos, etc., that are there, and the telcos for the mobile. But of course, there are also very valuable vertical or application companies built, and that won't change. I think the same dynamics will play out in the end.
Ska, maybe also, if you could say your view on this one, but additionally, I will ask you also in this context, what do you see that ultimately, the dream of every startup or almost everyone is to actually go global with their product or with their service. Do you think AI will help them to get there quicker, to scale up quicker, to actually be more competitive in a shorter time span, or not?
Yeah, I think AI definitely, it's now electricity, right? Everyone use electricity, not a few generates it. What AI helps for startup to scale up, I think it helps to flatten the org chart, right? Now it's not unseen that companies can go from 5 to 10 million ARR with just incremental 10 new hires. So it definitely enhance the talent density. So I think in that regards, I think AI definitely helps, for onboarding, for ops, for IT, finance, all of the through kind of like the distribution value chain. I think this is what AI can help startups to scale up faster. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And maybe just a quick note on the mode. I do think that for agents, definitely the mode is more around cognition, so around the knowledge, context, proprietary data loop. But I think what like a lot of people are getting hyped about AI agents, but I think we're still in the very early innings because if you look under the hood, the real production environment is very messy, simply because we don't have the right infrastructure, the right hygiene effect, the right kind of guardrail layers into it. So I think that's what really like the AI agents with the strongest mode is with this cognition that eventually drives value and also has the right guardrail effect. That they need to have like very clean data fabric, so your agent are getting access to the right data. Otherwise, I think the backfire will be strong later on.
Okay, maybe we have just a couple of minutes left. So, are there any questions from the audience actually on whatever we discussed? Yes, please.
Thank you. It's loud. I'm James. My question is around defensibility and moats. So it's been sprinkled into some of what you guys have talked about today. And I'm curious how you see, like you just talked about defensibility in AI agents. More broadly speaking, how do you see defensibility differing in different industries? So for some it's their distribution, for some it's the way they use data. I'm curious if there's any sort of way that you approach this and maybe some industry examples. Thank you. For everyone.
Maybe I can jump in quickly. Until recently, data moat has been considered like one of the most important moats, but especially when it comes to foundation models, we realized, or AI researchers realized, that it's not a huge moat anymore. Of course, when you're talking about vertical applications, the data is still precious because if you have lots of customers interacting daily with the product, you know about how they use it, what are their needs, what they want as output, so you can have a certain advantage there. But I think, as you know, as all of these AI tools are available to all of your competitors as well, the biggest difference at the moment comes down to one, your strategy, and two, your execution capability. You mentioned, for instance, distribution. I think distribution can be a significant moat because it's a direct result of your execution capability. And I don't believe in the first mover advantage. I think like second movers, third movers could also have a very huge chance in becoming the ultimate market winner. But I think like fast moving, having the resources, having a very solid product ultimately makes you more attractive than your competitors. So it's I think very difficult to, you know, boil it down to one or two factors because everything is available to everyone. So it's like a combination of smaller things, I think.
If I can step in here. So I think it depends on the type of startup, as you mentioned. So if the startup's about having the best model out there and you need to train your own models, then the moat is the talent and the capital you have to actually train the model. And the talent means a few hundred people in the world who've seen state-of-the-art at the few leading labs and research you know, institutions. And that's why, you know, that's such a heavy competition for these people. And Meta is offering packages of tens or hundreds of millions for, you know, single-digit teams. Then if it's about consumers and prosumers and selling to them, then I think the moat is really in distribution and brand, not much else today. Obviously, I'm simplifying, but that's the way. And again, Lovable is a good example of this. And then if it's about enterprise sales, more traditional B2B, then it's actually quite similar to the previous wave of SaaS in my eyes, because it's about having the enterprise-ready product, you know, tailored for that specific use case and vertical, and as I mentioned, enterprise-ready, meaning safe, secure, compliant, and everything about that, and being able to run the, you know, typical enterprise go-to-market, which is and sales, which is also not a given. So, but that's not very different from the previous wave of startups. So, roughly these three categories based on the type of the company you're building.
Thanks a lot. We have like 1 minute left, so if there's one more question from the audience, and it will be our final question, actually.
Hi there. Thank you very much for your answers. More on a philosophical note, do you think venture capital as an industry has this self-fulfilling prophecy of eventually having such a strong impact on labor and labor market that it will drive into like kind of UBI in that way? And if so, do you think we should be thinking of having insurance against AI taking your job type of thing for a lot of white collar and beyond? Thank you.
No, I think it's a good one. The thing is,
30 seconds answer.
Yeah, the importance is both over and underestimated, I would say. Yeah, because on the size of venture capital and the total capital deployed, it's super minor, yeah, especially in Europe. On the other hand, you could say the impact is big because new technology is adopted. And where that leads, I don't know. I don't think AI will replace work. It will change work, yeah? But it won't be the, I don't know, the solution to everything in my view.
Great. Well, time is up. So, well, thank you, Ska, Jakub, Peter, and Baturay. Great discussion. And ladies and gentlemen, of course, I'm sure every of our panelists is happy to chat further on during the evening or tomorrow. Thank you very much. Thank you.